Nathaniel Harrington stepped into the private luxury car of the Chicago-bound express train, the scent of polished leather and fine mahogany wrapping around him like the weight of the empire he commanded. At 38, he was the undisputed head of Harrington Rail, the largest network in the United States, yet the success that once fueled him now felt like chains. He had boarded expecting solitude to rehearse the board meeting speech where he would announce his engagement to Elena, the daughter of a rival shipping magnate, a union designed to silence every whispered rumor about his private life. The car was a sanctuary of quiet power. Crystal decanters gleamed on the sideboard, thick carpet muffled every step, and wide windows framed the transition from New York's crowded platform to the open green fields beyond. But the moment the sliding door hissed shut behind him, Nathaniel froze. There, lounging in the custom leather seat engraved with his name, sat Theodore Lang. 10 years had only sharpened the man's features. Athletic build, sun-lightened hair, and those green eyes that still carried the same quiet defiance. Nathaniel's heart slammed against his ribs. Theodore? The name escaped like a curse. What the hell are you doing in my seat? The train lurched forward, wheels gripping the tracks as the journey began. Theodore looked up slowly, a faint smile touching his lips that did not reach his eyes. Surprised? Nate? I figured you'd recognize me eventually. After all, I still know every inch of this railroad, inside and out. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but the words landed like stones. Nathaniel dropped his briefcase, the thud echoing in the sudden tension. This was impossible. Theodore Lang, the only man he had ever loved, the one he had walked away from in their senior year at Yale when his father discovered them and issued the ultimatum. End it or lose the family legacy. Nathaniel had chosen the legacy. He had chosen the lie. Get out, Nathaniel ordered, voice low and sharp, stepping closer until the scent of Theodore's familiar cologne hit him like a memory. This car is reserved. Security will remove you at the next stop. His fingers already reached for the intercom button, but Theodore stood without hurry, their faces inches apart. The car swayed gently as the train accelerated through the suburbs. You can call them, Theodore said quietly, but it won't change anything. I'm not here to ruin you, Nate. I'm here because you never gave me a chance to say goodbye. You just disappeared, and I spent 10 years wondering if the man I loved ever really existed. The accusation hung between them, raw and unfiltered. Nathaniel's mind flashed to stolen nights in a cramped dorm, whispered promises under starlit campus walks. The way Theodore's laugh had once made the future feel possible. Now that future was a boardroom and a loveless marriage. The argument built quickly. Nathaniel accused him of trespassing, of stalking, of trying to blackmail the company. Theodore countered with the truth Nathaniel had buried. The late-night calls he had ignored, the letters returned unopened, the way Nathaniel had publicly dated women while their shared dreams of traveling the rails together turned to ash. Voices rose, the luxury car suddenly feeling too small. Nathaniel's hand trembled on the phone. Outside, the American countryside blurred past in vibrant greens and golds under the bright midday sun. Then, without warning, the brakes slammed on. The train screeched, metal grinding against metal, throwing both men forward. Nathaniel caught the edge of the table. Theodore grabbed his arm instinctively. Alarms blared faintly from the forward cars. The intercom crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the unscheduled stop. A track signal malfunction requires us to halt. Please remain in your seats. The entire journey had come to a dead stop in the middle of nowhere, fields stretching endlessly on either side. Nathaniel pulled away from Theodore's touch as if burned, chest heaving. In the sudden silence, the weight of 10 lost years pressed down harder than the empire he had sacrificed everything to protect. This forced pause was no coincidence. It was the beginning of a reckoning he could no longer outrun. The emergency lights bathed the private car in a soft amber glow, turning the luxurious space into something intimate and confining. Nathaniel stared out the window at the motionless tracks, his reflection superimposed over the golden fields. His pulse still hammered from the sudden stop and from the man standing only feet away. Theodore released his arm slowly, the brief contact lingering like a brand. Looks like the universe decided we needed time, Theodore said, his tone lighter but edged with something deeper. Nathaniel turned, anger and fear twisting inside him. Just don't pretend this is fate. You planned this somehow. You always were good at getting what you wanted. He moved to the bar, pouring himself a scotch with shaking hands, the crystal clinking loudly in the quiet. Theodore watched him, green eyes tracing the lines of stress that 10 years of hiding had carved into Nathaniel's handsome face. Planned the signal failure? No. But getting on this train? Yes. I transferred to the operations team 6 months ago because I needed to see you. The real you, not the billboard version on every financial magazine. Theodore sat back down in the disputed seat, gesturing for Nathaniel to take the opposite one. Reluctantly, Nathaniel did, the leather creaking under his weight. The train remained still. Distant voices of conductors echoed along the cars, but no one approached their private sanctuary. As the minutes stretched, the conversation shifted from accusation to memory. Theodore spoke first, voice soft. Remember Yale? The night we snuck onto the old freight yard and lay on a flat car watching the stars? You told me you wanted to build something real, not just inherit an empire. That night you kissed me like the future was ours. Nathaniel closed his eyes, the scotch burning his throat. He remembered every detail. The chill in the air, Theodore's warm hand in his. The promise that love between two men didn't have to be hidden. Then his father's discovery, the rage, the ultimatum delivered in the Harrington Mansion library, while portraits of straight-laced ancestors stared down. Choose the family or choose him. There is no middle ground. I chose survival, Nathaniel whispered, the confession slipping out before he could stop it. My father threatened to cut me off, to expose everything to the board. The company was bleeding money after the recession. I couldn't let thousands of employees lose their jobs because their CEO was gay. The word felt foreign on his tongue, even now. Theodore leaned forward, elbows on his knees. And what about us? Did we stop existing the moment you walked out of my dorm? The dialogue deepened, each man revealing fragments of the decade apart. Nathaniel described the endless dinners with Elena, the public smiles that masked his emptiness, the nights he stared at old photos on a locked phone. Theodore spoke of his own path, working his way up through the ranks of Harrington Rail's maintenance division, never revealing their shared history, driven by a need to understand why the man he loved had chosen power over truth. I watched you from afar, Nate. Every ribbon cutting, every interview where you praised traditional values, killed me. Outside, the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the stalled train. Passengers in other cars grew restless, but in the private car the world had narrowed to two men and the ghosts between them. Nathaniel felt the walls of his carefully constructed life cracking. The stop had bought them hours, maybe more, and with every passing minute the pull toward Theodore grew stronger than the fear. Yet the board meeting loomed. Elena's ring waited in his suitcase, and the world outside still demanded the lie. As the conductor announced the delay might last until evening, Nathaniel realized the real journey had only just begun. The hours dragged under the bright afternoon sun, the stalled train a metallic island in a sea of American farmland. Nathaniel's phone buzzed repeatedly. Board members, his father's lawyer, Elena checking in. Each vibration felt like a chain tightening. He silenced it after the third call, but Theodore noticed. Still running the show even when the train won't move? The question carried no mockery, only quiet understanding. Nathaniel set the phone on the table between them like a loaded gun. Their conversation turned to the present. Theodore revealed he had discovered irregularities in the company's safety records. Minor issues, but ones that could explode if ignored. I didn't come to blackmail you, he insisted. I came because someone has to care about the people who actually run these rails, the families who depend on safe trains. You used to care about that too. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. The empire he had sacrificed love to save was now under scrutiny, and the man he had once shared everything with was the one holding the mirror. A new tension rose when Nathaniel's phone lit up with his father's name. He answered on speaker, the old man's voice filling the car, gruff and commanding. Nathaniel, the board is waiting. Elena says you're unreachable. Whatever delay this is, fix it. The merger depends on your announcement tomorrow. The words landed heavy, laced with the same ultimatum from 10 years ago. Theodore listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When the call ended, Nathaniel buried his face in his hands. He still doesn't know. No one does. If they find out about us, about me, it's over. Theodore stood, pacing the length of the car, sunlight catching the determined set of his shoulders. Then tell them, or don't. But stop pretending the lie is protecting anyone but yourself. The misunderstanding flared again. Nathaniel accused Theodore of naivety, of not understanding the pressure of legacy and thousands of livelihoods. Theodore countered that true strength lay in authenticity, not in the closet. Voices rose once more, old wounds reopening under the strain of confinement. Yet beneath the anger, something softer emerged. Theodore shared stories of colleagues who had come out in the industry, the quiet progress happening on the rails while executives like Nathaniel clung to the past. Nathaniel listened, the Scotch forgotten, realizing how isolated his power had made him. The family pressure, the societal gaze, the fear of losing everything. It all felt suffocating in the bright, immobile car. As evening approached and the delay stretched, a conductor finally knocked, offering updates. Mechanical inspection required, passengers being bussed forward. Their private car, however, remained untouched, isolated by Nathaniel's status. In that isolation, the two men sat across from each other again, the argument giving way to tentative honesty. Nathaniel's hand brushed Theodore's on the table, accidental yet electric. For the first time in years, the Tycoon felt the stirrings of the man he had buried. The stop had forced them together. Now it was forcing him to choose whether to keep hiding or finally move forward. Night fell across the stalled train, stars emerging over the quiet fields. Inside the private car, dim lamps cast warm pools of light. The earlier argument had exhausted both men, leaving a fragile truce. Nathaniel ordered dinner from the staff, filet and wine delivered discreetly, and they ate in silence at first, the clink of silverware the only sound. Theodore broke it gently. You still order the same steak, medium rare. Some things don't change. Nathaniel managed a small smile, the first real one in hours. Some things do. I'm not the scared kid anymore. But doubt lingered. When Theodore's phone buzzed with a message from a union contact warning of potential safety violations tied to Harrington Rail's cost-cutting, Nathaniel's paranoia surged. Is that why you're really here? To expose me? The misunderstanding exploded again. Theodore slammed his glass down. I came because I still love you, you idiot. Even after you broke my heart. I never stopped. The confession hung in the air, raw and undeniable. Nathaniel stared, the words piercing the armor he had worn for a decade. Flashbacks flooded Nathaniel. The night he had ended things in a rain-soaked parking lot, telling Theodore it was over for both their sakes, watching the man he loved walk away without looking back. The guilt had never left. Now, trapped by the stop, he saw the cost clearly. Loneliness, a loveless engagement, a life measured in stock prices instead of joy. Yet fear remained. If I come out, the board will revolt. My father will disown me. The company could fracture. Theodore reached across the table, taking Nathaniel's hand firmly. Then let it. Build something better. With me. Or without. But stop living for ghosts. The touch sent warmth through Nathaniel, stirring feelings he had suppressed. They talked deep into the night about family. Nathaniel's aging father still clinging to outdated values. Theodore's supportive siblings who had always known his truth. The conversation revealed layers. Theodore's own sacrifices, turning down promotions to stay near the man he couldn't forget, quietly advocating for better worker conditions from within. A moment of near betrayal arose when Nathaniel's phone showed a missed call from Elena. He hesitated, and Theodore withdrew his hand, hurt flashing across his face. Still choosing the lie? The question stung. Nathaniel stood, pacing, the luxurious car feeling like a cage. Yet as the night deepened, Honesty prevailed. He deleted the engagement announcement draft, voice steady. I'm done hiding. Not just from the world, from myself. The misunderstanding cleared, replaced by tentative hope. The train remained stopped, but inside the car, something irreversible had shifted. Nathaniel looked at Theodore under the soft light, seeing not just the past but a possible future. The journey had derailed, yet for the first time, the path ahead felt true. Dawn broke with the conductor's announcement that repairs were nearly complete. The train would move again soon, but the private car still felt suspended in time. Nathaniel had barely slept, mind racing with the night's revelations. Theodore brewed coffee from the small galley, handing him a mug with the quiet familiarity of old lovers. Ready for the world to move again? The question carried weight. They spent the morning dissecting the sacrifices each had made. Theodore opened up about his own crisis. After Nathaniel left, he had thrown himself into labor organizing, fighting for fair wages on the very rails Nathaniel controlled. I thought if I couldn't have you, I could at least make the world you inherited a little kinder. Nathaniel listened, humbled, recognizing how his choices had rippled outward. The family pressure he had bowed to had cost more than personal happiness. It had delayed progress for thousands. A pivotal moment came when Nathaniel's father called again, demanding updates. This time Nathaniel answered without speaker, stepping to the window. Dad, there's something I need to tell you when I get to Chicago. It's about who I am. The line went silent, then erupted in anger, the same threats echoing from a decade ago. Nathaniel ended the call calmly. I'm done choosing fear. Theodore watched with pride, the respect in his eyes healing old wounds. Yet conflict peaked when news of the delay leaked online, speculating about Harrington rail issues. Theodore's union contacts surfaced again, offering evidence of minor safety lapses that could be spun into scandal. Nathaniel faced a choice. Bury the files to protect the merger or acknowledge them and risk everything. The betrayal fear returned briefly. Had Theodore leaked it? But one look at the man's honest face dissolved the doubt. Together they drafted a statement committing to full audits and worker protections. We fix it together, Nathaniel said. As the sun climbed, the emotional climax built. Theodore confessed the depth of his pain, the years of wondering if he had been merely a phase. Nathaniel responded with raw vulnerability, admitting the love had never died, only been buried under duty. Tears came then, not from weakness but release. They embraced for the first time in 10 years. The hug fierce and healing. No words needed. The train's engines rumbled back to life around them, signaling the end of the stop. But the real journey, of truth, love between men and rebuilding, had just begun. Nathaniel knew the board meeting would be explosive, family ties might fracture. But with Theodore beside him, the risk felt worth every consequence. The train resumed its steady rhythm toward Chicago, the wheels clicking like a heartbeat returning to normal. Inside the private car, Nathaniel and Theodore sat side by side, shoulders touching, the landscape now flying past in vibrant autumn hues. The hours of forced stillness had transformed everything. Nathaniel canceled the engagement announcement with a single message to Elena, honest and kind. She replied with surprising grace, admitting she had sensed his distance. The weight lifted. For the first time, Nathaniel breathed freely. They talked of the future, coming out publicly after the board meeting, restructuring the company with Theodore's input on safety and equity, building a life together away from secrecy. Theodore's calm strength anchored Nathaniel through waves of doubt. Society hasn't changed completely, Nathaniel warned. Theodore smiled. But we have. That's enough to start. Their hands intertwined, the simple gesture carrying the depth of a decade's longing. As the skyline appeared, Nathaniel faced the final internal battle, family. His father waited at the station, expecting the old Nathaniel. Instead, the son who stepped off the train carried truth. The confrontation was brief but seismic. The elder Harrington raged, threatened disinheritance, yet Nathaniel stood firm. I love the company, Dad, but I love myself more now. Theodore waited nearby, a quiet pillar of support. In the end, the old man walked away shaken, But the door to reconciliation remained cracked open. The board meeting the next day shocked the industry. Nathaniel announced his truth, the safety reforms, and his partnership with Theodore in both business and life. Some members resigned. Others stayed, inspired. Headlines blazed. But the man who had hidden for years finally felt whole. Nathaniel and Theodore stood together on the platform days later, watching a new train depart, symbols of journeys still ahead. The emotional growth was complete. Nathaniel had learned that true power lay in authenticity, Theodore in forgiveness, both in the courage to choose love over fear. Their story proved that even the mightiest empires could be rebuilt on honesty. Was it true that a man could sacrifice his authentic self for family and ambition without permanent regret? Or was that belief always a lie that eventually demanded payment?